Hi everyone, and welcome to my channel where I talk about movies. In this month of July of 2023, I've been talking exclusively about Criterion releases and coinciding with the Barnes & Noble half price sale on Criterion titles. I'm filming this on the 26th of July. The sale ends at the end of the day on the 28th, so we have 2 more full days left for the sale. Now, I picked up yesterday, Tuesday, I picked up two releases. I picked up the Renown Westerns, 5 films, 5 Westerns, directed by Bud Bedecker and starring Randolph Scott. At the end of this video, I'll do a little bit of, I'll show you a little bit of what this package looks like. I will not be able to talk about that film before the end of the sale. There's simply too much there. But the other title is the one I want to talk about today, was released yesterday, and this is One False Move from 1992. And this stars Bill Paxton and Billy Bob Thornton and is directed by Carl Franklin. And it is the second movie that he directed that's now in the Criterion Collection, both 4K UHD Dolby Vision. His previous release, a subsequent movie for Franklin, is Devil in a Blue Dress, starring Denzel Washington, which another film that looked great in Dolby Vision and I highly recommend. One False Move was a film that was the first time Franklin actually got what he thought to be a legitimate film assignment. Because he had made 3 previous films for Roger Corman on shoestring budgets. This is the first time he was working with at least known actors with a storyline that it has touches of exploitation, but is clearly very much in the tradition of the neo-noir gangster films that of which there were many in this era of the early 1990s. So the film stars Billy Bob Thornton playing a character called Ray. He's a gangster, he's a coke snorer, and he's jumpy, he's very emotional, and he has his gangster pal is Pluto, a character called Pluto. Pluto is also in Rebel Without a Cause, played by Michael Beach. Now he is different. He is the total opposite of Ray. He is thought to be a college graduate with a high IQ. He's very cold, calculating. He doesn't get ruffled, but he's definitely as diabolical as Billy Bob Thornton. And there's a third person in this mix, and this is Ray's girlfriend, named Fantasia, and played by Cinda Williams. In fact, this is Cinda Williams on the cover here. And and she is basically the catalyst for everything that goes on in this film. And it's kind of subtle when you have to stop and realize it. In fact, Carl Franklin points it out several times in his commentary about her importance to the film. From the very beginning, where we see a bunch of gruesome murders in a drug heist. And we see, and they're meant to be gruesome because this is a film that is going to lead to an ending, and that we need to know that these are really, really bad men. So what's this ending going to be like? Because there is a great deal of tension that builds up. This is really a film, it's a study of tension, because we start out in California. We learn that both Ray and Fantasia have roots back in Arkansas, and it's thought that that their escape is going to lead to Arkansas. So the LA detectives, there's 2 LA detectives that are assigned to go to Arkansas, and where the local sheriff, played by Bill Paxton, hears of the case, knows the connections between Ray and Fantasia and the local community. Is a very small town in Arkansas. So we get a cutting back and forth between Arkansas and the gangsters on the run. these two LA detectives played by Jim Metzler and Earl Billings, and they're excellent. I mean, they're really excellent, and they're very professional LA detectives. They go by the book. They know exactly what to do in every situation. Contrasting to the local sheriff, played by Bill Paxton, who they originally think is just a country yokel. They do come to respect him, however. So we have that contrast between the techniques of the local sheriff, which is unconventional, with the more conventional techniques of these highly polished LA detectives, which makes for another interesting contrast, because in the contrast of LA to the backwoods of Arkansas, and these two LA detectives get kind of impressed. One of the best parts of the film is they're kind of impressed by small town life and how everybody knows everybody else, and we get so these as the gangsters come to Arkansas, we also learn there might be another connection going on here, which does add a layer of suspense, a situation from the past that might come to fruition when these gangsters head to Arkansas. So Carl Franklin mentions that he sort of saw this film as a Western, as sort of like High Noon, where the tension mounts with the clocks, and to build up the suspense as to what's actually going to happen when the gangsters within that film will confront Gary Cooper, the sheriff of that small town. But the screenplay itself was written by Billy Bob Thornton with his co-writer Tom Epperson, who is a childhood friend from Arkansas. They came to LA to write screenplays. In fact, they had an earlier screenplay bought by the Geffen Company, which was never produced. By this time, Billy Bob Thornton was more interested in becoming an actor. But he does, he subsequently to One False Move, he wins an Oscar for his screenplay for Sling Blade, which he obviously also starred in, and is often thought as the first major film, but that launched his career. But it's actually, as he points out in the supplements, this is the movie, One False Move. He had been in some movies before, but he says, I was several rungs down from John Malkovich in the diabolical male actor roles. So along with the tension, which I think is very, very palpable and very effective in One False Move, we also get outstanding performances here from everybody who I've mentioned, and some others as well. And Carl Franklin had been an actor in many, going back to the 1970s, many television series and a few movies. He then decided that he really didn't have that much future as an actor, wanted to become a director. I believe he went to the American Film Institute. And he made 3 films for Roger Corman before One False Move. Very, very shoestring movies. So Carl Franklin is yet another filmmaker of the last half of the 20th century who got their start, working for Roger Corman. So the performances are great, the tension is great. I would say one of the weak parts of the film is this. There's sort of a lack of a nationwide manhunt for these men, because this is just psychopathic killers, and this is a killing spree. But all we really see are the 2 LA detectives and the local sheriff in this small Arkansas town waiting for them to come, waiting for them to arrive. Presumably, they're not even sure that they're actually going to arrive. But overall, a very entertaining film for the other reasons that I mentioned. Now, the film was produced by a company called IRS Media, and they made low-budget movies. Now, this was $2 million budget, which wasn't that much, but certainly more than what Carl Franklin had to work with on his Roger Corman films. And it was a time of independent filmmaking where I believe probably the first one would have been Sex, Lies, and Videotapes, Steven Soderbergh's debut film, which was made very cheaply with good actors and then made a whole lot of money. So it was possible to make these low-budget independent films. There was a possibility that you could hit pay dirt. But for the most part, IRS Media films were designed to go straight to video, straight to VHS. But there were some in the company thought, well, this film really has some merit to it, and maybe we should release it in a couple of big cities, and we might get a really good review out of the newspaper critics, and that we could put on the box cover. But as it turned out, they got terrific reviews from most of the major film critics in the country, including Siskel and Ebert. So then they decided, well, we'll do a nationwide rollout. They did it in small batches from city to city. Now, I never saw the film in the theater, but I did see it on VHS, and in the commentary there is and it came out on DVD in 1999, and there's a Carl Franklin commentary. So it was actually filmed in 1990. So about 9 years after the filming, Franklin's commentary is sort of a standard director's commentary. We get to hear, this happened, this when we had this is how we did that. It's got some good information, but there's nothing, the supplements here are very sparse, so we don't get any kind of context to the film outside of Franklin's viewpoint on it. And then we do get the only other supplement here is a brand new one, I think from 2023, where Franklin and Billy Bob Thornton sit down and talk about the film and the importance it was to them in their careers. But basically it's the same stories that you're going to hear in the commentary. And then we do get the pesky fold out, which I never care for. And we get an essay by William Boyle called Lock Things Up. And it's a pretty good essay. He devotes about the first 2 or 3 paragraphs to basically his memoir when he first saw this film, sort of the history of his discovery of One False Move. And then we do get some rather dark screenshots from the film with the pesky fold down. So again, the film is certainly worth it. Supplements, I don't know, Criterion's not providing with a whole lot of supplements, and if they have a commentary, usually, not always, but usually they go back to archival commentaries. A new one, even by Carl Franklin in 2023, I think would have been would probably been very welcome to his perspective another 24 years later. Okay, so just briefly, I'm just going to show what the Renown Westerns, the box looks like. I guess this is called a digibook. And it is Randolph Scott, the star, Harry Joe Brown, the producer, from whence cometh the Renown Westerns. There were more than just this 5. I think 7 Men from Now was from a different company, so that's not included in this release. They're very short westerns, and even at half price, it's 150 MSRP, so $75. I hesitated. Is this going to be worth $75? All the films are less than 80 minutes, and in fact, and we do get 4K UHDs, and I've read reviews that they are fantastic looking, which sealed the deal for me. But you see 3 4K UHDs, you see 3 Blu-rays behind them. And so we have the tall T on the first 4K. On the second one, we have 2 films, Decision at Sundown, Buchanan Rides Alone. On the third disc, we have Ride Lonesome and Comanche Station. On the Blu-rays, there's 3 of the Westerns are on the first disc, 2 on the second disc, and then the third disc has the supplements. There are 3 commentaries, and the commentaries, I think 2 of them are by Kat Ellinger, and I think one's by Taylor Hackford. They are on both the UHD and the Blu-rays. There are Martin Scorsese introductions to the films. I think he does 4 of them, and I think Taylor Hackford does the other one. He also does one of the commentaries. And Taylor Hackford, I believe, early in his career, he was a film director. I think what's The Officer and the Gentleman, is that his most famous film? So the commentary, the introductions are on the Blu-ray, along with a slew of other supplements, documentaries, mostly on Bud Bedecker. But I don't think there's anything new in there. There might be. I think, oh yes, there's a new program with Farron Smith-Namey on actor Randall Scott. And I guess the commentaries are new. Maybe these are commentaries ported over from previous releases. And then we get a booklet. So we don't get the pesky, when we go for $75, at least we don't get the pesky fold out. Great shot of Randolph Scott on the cover here. And we get, there's a couple pages devoted to each of the movies. We get 2 essays. One is called Some Things a Man Can't Ride Around, Bud Bedecker's Renown Westerns, and this is by Tom Cumming. And then the Outlaw Variations, the Renown Westerns, finely drawn in Antagonist by Glenn Kenny, so that should be pretty interesting. Okay, so thanks a lot for everybody who managed to listen. Comments are welcome. If you only have 2 days left, so if you want to pick up your last minute purchases, you got to hurry. Okay, take care.